Hello, my spooky friends. This time I'm talking directly to you, my horror writers, my horror fans, my horror readers, but especially to you, my horror writers, especially the indie horror writers, those who write in the small press or self publish. I've been thinking a lot about our beloved genre and how it is such a fantastic community and how supportive it is, and how we seek out the small voices, the unheard voices. It's why indie horror movies do so well, like The Addams Family and things like that, Night of the Living Dead, that sort of things, because we look for it and we see it and we celebrate it. And that is a wonderful thing. It has me thinking about, too, like everyone who does like the small, especially the smaller press, but every writer that's out there, they keep thinking, how do I promote myself? How do I get out there? How do I make people see my book, buy my book? Especially these days when there's like a flood of just AI books coming out, as well as other things, not just AI books, but there's just a lot of people writing, a lot of people publishing, a lot of stuff out there. And how do I get myself seen? How do I let people know about this fantastic thing I've written? I talked before about going to indie bookstores and small bookstores and that kind of thing, and going there and meeting people and talking to people, doing like literary festivals, that side of thing. Also going to conventions, and getting yourself out there and known. One thing I'd like to specify for horror writers especially is don't just stick to writing conventions, or book conventions or literary festivals. Go to like horror film festivals and meet people there, and just go to horror music festivals like goth festivals, industrial fest, that sort of thing, and just meet people, talk to people, and be part of the wider community, because horror as a community is very, very interesting. It's not just, like I said, supportive and stuff like that, but it's also passionate. You know what I mean? So there are people out there who will love your book. They'll support you, especially if you're a local author, a smaller author, somebody that's not quite big name yet. They seek it out. I mean, yes, we love our big name authors too. We love our Paul G. Tremblays. We love our Stephen King's, Grady Hendrix, Sylvia Mina Garcia. The list goes on and on. Joe Hill, et cetera, et cetera. I could just go on for hours. Eric LaRocca, where they're like got their own fan base and they're big and stuff like that. But we also seek out the small, the unheard. We find our favorite little stories that no one else has ever heard of, and we latch onto it and love it and just nurture it and bring it to light. And I think this is a wonderful thing. There's also right now a huge support for like BIPOC creators and LGBTQ, and that's amazing. Like, it's all a part of it. Like body horror especially speaks to these stories, to these people, and speaks to us as like the citizens of horror, I guess you could call us. And this is amazing, and I think this is a big thing. And I think also readers should make sure, like, if you read a book by somebody that's not very well known and you love it, let everyone know about it. Reach out and talk about it, because the community building aspect is the most important one. I think that's another thing too. I was reading an article the other day about like somebody saying like, writers need to be more like rock, like be like rock stars. Be most specifically, they said like punk rock, which is, again, there's a community there, and it's like people are building each other up. There are people that listen to punk rock that don't play in a band, but they're still like creating venues for these amazing bands. They're like literally going into their basement saying, hey, you guys can play here. I'll bring my friends over, everyone else, and we'll just listen to you. And it's all supportive. They create zines, blogs, all that stuff, videos talking about it. I mean, the punk community, especially like when you're looking at the 80s and 90s, they built their own like independent network, independent community. And I was thinking about it, I was like, that person is mostly correct, but also not correct, because the literary community is different than the punk community. A lot of the literary community isn't that passionate about the readers and writers, or if they are, they're passionate about like the big names, the names people know. I mean, that's why when you got science fiction and fantasy conventions that are held by the fans, they're mostly like going after and bringing in the big names, the big dogs. I mean, you'll see like some small people here and there, but mostly it's about the big names. And punk never was, it was about the community first and foremost. And the thing I disagreed with, that he was acting like you should build a community of one, But that's not how punk rock was. Punk rock was never a community of one. It wasn't you build a community for your books. I think that's what the whole, what was it, 1,000 true fans who will spend $100 on you every year. That was basically yeah, you're building a community of one person, just one person. And I think that's not the way to go, because that's a community that feeds on itself. And I think, it works for people who become big names and that sort of thing. But I myself personally, that's not what I want. I want a thriving community of just indie horror in general. I want this community to flourish. And I think everyone needs to go out there, not just be a part of it. If you're an indie horror writer, musician, whatever, not just put your stuff out there and say, hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. Read other writers, promote friends, promote other people in the scene, go out to the different things, and just like I said, the conventions and everything else, even if they're just small horror reading groups, you know what I mean, horror book clubs, that kind of thing. Just go participate. Don't go and say, look, my book, let's all read my book and discuss my book at this horror book club. Instead, read the books that they have. Drop your book every once in a while, sure. Say, hey, yeah, I'm also a writer. This is what I got out. But just be part of the community, because the community, that's the passion, and that's what keeps it alive. And that's what's going to keep people coming to you, and also being part of your, buying your books, that kind of thing too, is because the community itself is lifting itself up. You know what I mean? It's not just, hey, I need to promote myself. It's, hey, how can I be part of this bigger community? And how can I make my work part of this community? How can I celebrate this community through my own art and that kind of thing too, and be part of it? I think that's key. You know what I mean? That at least for what I want to get out of writing, because for me, writing, especially writing horror, is a big part of who I am. It's what I've always done. It's my identity. Even when I was younger, never thought I'd be rich and famous. I know there's a lot of people oh, you're going to be the next Stephen King. I've heard that a lot. I've heard that through my life. Just I'm sure every fantasy fan has heard they're going to be the next J.K. Rowling. But in my mind, I've always just wanted to make something true, honest, terrifying, hopeful. I wanted to convey this thing. I wanted to make it and be out there, and to give it to people to read and sell it to people to read. Somehow selling is a part of it. I'm not sure why still, but it's key to it. And make this art and be part of this thing and feed into the community and have it feed back into this and that. You know what I mean? And it just feeds into each other. You know what I mean? And sometimes you need to create the community, but don't make it about you. Don't make it about your writing. Don't make it about yourself. Some people, yeah, they can do the whole cult of personality thing, and that works for them. But I don't know. To me, that's not punk rock. It can be. There's been some punk rockers that are like that. That's true. They tend to rise up and then fall down, that kind of thing. But the whole community, as a whole, is more than just that. Even if there are some tiny little cult of personality here and there, as a whole, what makes it thrive and what makes it work is outside of that, is the people building the distribution channels that aren't the regular distribution channels. You know what I mean? That's what made punk so big, was that they didn't go through Ticketmaster or the big venues or things like that. They made their own places, their own spaces. They made their own publishing companies. You know what I mean? They made their own, not publishing companies, made their own record companies is what I'm trying to say. They made their own record companies and put it out there. And it's a work of passion and a work of art. It's not about the money. It's about the community and the love of the community and the love of being a part of this thing and getting it out there. And I think, like I said, that's where that one article got wrong, because they kept talking about the literary community and promoting yourself and that kind of thing. And I think literary community is different. Especially the general fiction community. I think horror is close to the punk community because it has the same passion. The horror writing, reading, all that stuff. It's all part of a larger horror community, but it has that same independent spirit. Because even right now, horror is on an upswing. Yes, it's having its moment both in film and in books. But there are times when it doesn't. And the horror community is still there. The horror community is still reading it and loving it. And I think that's amazing. So even when it's not on the upswing, they're still out there in the trenches, so to speak, and building this community and keeping it. And the same with punk rock, because like there'll be moments where like it's popular and then when it's not, and that doesn't matter to those who are like in it and doing it passionately. And I think that's important and amazing. So with that said, I don't know what the takeaway for this is. I don't know if you came here thinking, oh, he's going to give me like tools on how to promote my books, that kind of thing, and how I'm going to be the next Stephen King or Joe Hill or whatever. No. Why would you want that? You know, that's a fleeting thing. I don't know. I mean, some people are like, oh, I want the money. No, you don't want to be rich per se. I mean, people say they do, but that's a whole different kind of ball of wax, and you don't want to turn into Elon Musk or whatever being rich does to you. You want to be comfortable. You just don't want to work a normal job. You want to write and have that be how you make a living. And yeah, there's something to that, but also too, I mean, why? I mean, yeah, that's cool, but also like, is that really it? Is that the core of it? Is that the truth of it? You know what I mean? Because like I said, when you look like most punk bands, they like that's their what they do in the evenings and stuff, or they go on the road and things like that, and it's their day job, but they're also living like hand to mouth and stuff like that too. And there's I don't know. I'm not saying you have to be poor to be an artist. That's not it at all. I'm just saying you don't have to be rich either, to be part of a community, to build a community, to be part of something bigger than yourself. All right. Well, with that said, I'm going to say it again. Yes, indeed. Stay spooky. All right. See you next time, kiddos.